Hello everybody, welcome back to the ZHP Garage, and we are back with the 65 Nova. First time in a while, because there has not been a lot of interesting things going on in this car. But I decided I'm going to show everything that we're doing to this, because you know, working on cars isn't always fun. Stuff doesn't always bolt together, stuff doesn't always go as planned. So I'm going to show everything from here on out on this car, so you can see how fun it is working on this thing. So I'm going to get with the master mechanic right now. We're going to be doing the wiring to start off. And then later on, we're going to go on to more progress of the car. This video is going to be recorded over a couple days. So it's just going to be stuff that we're doing to try and get it together. So let's get with him right now. First, let's look at this list and see what we've accomplished so far. So I think I'm going to have to add some stuff to this list, or make a whole new list entirely. I think I'm going to have to make a whole new list entirely just because there's extra stuff that I forgot to put on here that isn't on this list. So we started on the passenger mini tub, and we partially fabbed the tunnel together, but I'm not going to cross them off yet. Hopefully maybe we could do something in this video. I don't think we're going to be able to cross off anything in this video. This is the part where working in cars is amazing. So we're going to show the tub and the tunnel later on in this video. First we're going to start with the wiring, like I think I already said, because we're starting to lay out the wiring, trying to get the wiring straightened out up in the front of the car and along to the back, all over the place in the whole car before we go on with anything else. So let's go.
So we got our harness here, and you can see that we got it all deloomed. Kevin tried to help us out with the wiring. We appreciate the help, but it wasn't laying out the way I envisioned it, the way on the car that it was going to work. So he bought a harness that was supposed to be for the setup, and then he had to change the injector ends. So I mean that's all good, but the problem is we have the map sensor up here. So this is the map sensor that was in the harness, and you can see the way they had it taped up like this. It wasn't going to make it over here where it needed to go. Mass airflow we had on this side, which originally we had the intake on this side, but then we decided I think it's going to go this way, so the mass airflow wound up being okay. But just the fact that the whole harness is designed to be on the passenger side, you can see all the relays and fuses, but we need it to all be on the driver's side. It's going to have to flip back over and all go to the driver's side. For the throttle body motor is like super long, so we got to shorten it up. I didn't want to have a whole wad of wires up here, so we just started from scratch. So we stripped it down. This grommet's too big. We got to change the grommet for the one that we made that we're going to use for the size of the hole. I didn't want to have a whole bunch of like piggyback harnesses, and this doesn't have, we have the oil pressure sender back here for the aftermarket gauges, and then the water temp over here, and then there's nothing incorporated into this harness for that, so it would have another harness on top of it, like the factory, like something like this. But I didn't like this, so this would go, this is your factory, when your fuse box is inside, this would plug on here, and then this one's your headlights. So this would, this would plug in here, and then you have your wipers. Kevin set it up so this would be your oil pressure. So you're going through the factory fuse box when you're using an aftermarket gauges, and it's just for the center. So it's not really necessary, because then this would be on top of this harness, so I like to incorporate it into this harness. So I think what I'm going to do is, because this has a starter, and the starter relay is going to be inside, and then I want to incorporate the fan wiring to come for the electric fan. So I'm going to de-pin, the only thing I'm going to use out of this factory one here is the wipers. So I'm going to take the one that's the factory for the oil pressure, and then the factory for the starter, and the factory for the water temp out of the whole equation. So this will just be the wiper. So we'll come out, we'll just go to the wiper. Everything else will be incorporated into the engine harness, like the alternator wire, the charge wire. So that's what we're playing with. We're getting it all set up, all laid out. And you gotta be careful on these, because there's a bank 1 and a bank 2. So you can't just like, oh, just flip the harness, but then your firing order will be opposite. So you have to have the injectors and the coils in the right spot so it fires, it actually runs. That's what we're working with on the wiring. Just, super exciting wiring stuff. The PCM goes, it's sitting on stands on the firewall, so I have room for the sound deadening. So then I can put the sound deadening in, then I can bolt the PCM in it. Then I can plug in the harness to the PCM, so I know where everything is going to be, so it actually looked like it was intended for the car and not an afterthought. Stuff that just takes a lot of time, spend a lot of time on it, and it looks like it didn't do anything. So it's the next day. We pulled an all-nighter. So we're going to put we got the sound deadening put in. We're going to install the HVAC box now. So it's pretty much all, it comes assembled like this here. So you have your two lines for your these are your heater core. Then you got your two for your evaporator on your AC. So these ones you could put in after, I put them in after the fact, but these ones here for the heater core, they kind of do this whole little jog around, little kick. So it seems like it's easiest if I put them on just snug, so I can move them around and then I can hopefully tighten them up inside the car. That's my goal. I haven't tried this yet, but we're gonna go for it. So the way they do it is they have some O-rings. They just use normal AC O-rings, the green ones, the heater lines, and of course on the AC lines. So like I said, I could put these ones in after the fact. This O-ring, or this grommet, I'm gonna change. I got the grommets put in here. This one I didn't put in yet because I don't know why I decided to use it, but I don't like how it's loose on here. So I'm gonna change this one here. So I'm gonna take this one off before I put it in, and then add one to this later. So I'm just gonna put the O-rings on here now, and I could do the ACs after it goes in. So I'm just worried about the heater, two for the heater core. So there's 3 in here the same size, and then one little one. Then I'm just gonna use a little trans gel to lubricate them. You don't ever want to install the dry O-ring. But on the AC, you want to use just refrigerant oil. You don't want to cross-contaminate, so we got to use AC oil on that. But these ones, the coolant will break it down. It won't bother anything. All right, we got our both of our O-rings on here. I don't know if you remember if I talked about it before, but these brackets I had to give it a little grinding, a little massaging because it was up against the nut. I couldn't even start it. So even though this whole assembly is for the Nova, designed for it, it still doesn't exactly just go right in the Nova. So keep that in mind if you want to add AC to your car. So you get the O-ring all seated in there, get it down, push down flat, and go ahead and snug down the nut. And then I just want to get it down to the point where I can just rotate it is all I'm looking to do. So that's how snug I have it. So it doesn't come out of the O-ring, but just so I can rotate it. So now I can add the other one. And you can see where there's a provision on here. They have you want to use 2 wrenches. This heater core, if you twist on this, you're going to break the soldering loose, and you're going to get a leak in here. So make sure you want to hold both sides. Use a wrench or 2 crow's feet. Make sure you hold both of those before you tighten it down. But it is an O-ring, so you don't need to get super crazy with it. You can see how this is what I'm talking about here, how one sticks out further than the other one. It's a little crooked, so this one I think is a good one. All right, so let me show you the sound deadening we put on here, and we'll throw this thing in here. So we put the sound deadening in here. This stuff's pretty cool. It rolls on. It's kind of time consuming though. We got a couple hours probably in this. Then again, I am kind of amateur hour at it, but it definitely takes some time. But we wanted to insulate behind here, but it's not all bulky like a dash pad would be. So we got to put on, and then the way we did this is we welded these little nuts on here to mount it. It only has 3 mounting points on this box. So there's 2 nuts, so then it has this bracket we left up in here. The AC blocks off the original fresh air ducting from the cowling, so that's all capped now, so there's no more. This setup doesn't have any fresh air provisions. It's just pretty much you're on reset all the time. I kind of changed the mounting a little bit because normally it would have bolts to go through, and I put the studs, and then it had a little bit different spacer setup, so I kind of changed it around a little bit. Now it's kind of tricky to get this up in here because you got to reach around everything. I'm gonna put a little bit of trans gel, a little lubricant on here to help it slip through the grommets because they're really tight on here. So let me grab a little bit of lubricant for that real quick. So I got a little bit of lubricant on here. So we're gonna go into a time lapse now. I'm gonna throw the box in here. And then you can see I got sound deadening also on this side behind where the PCM is going to mount. And then I'm going to get the PCM put in here. And then we're going to go to laying out the wiring. So let me get this guy in here.
All right, it's been a few days. I didn't want to bore you guys with some wiring, so we did a lot more of it off camera. I think in that time lapse it was about 2 hours of us fiddling around with the wiring, but after that it was probably another at least 10 hours. I don't know exactly, 10 to 12, somewhere in there, hours of us doing the wiring, laying it out. So as of right now, in front of the firewall, you know, in the engine bay, it's fully laid out, ready to be loomed. It looks really good. We're happy with how it turned out, so we're going to show you that now. And then we started to work on underneath the dash. You know, we're shortening up shortening up the wiring because it's a little lengthy, and we'll show you that here in a second. Let's get with the master mechanic. He can go through it and show it to us all. So let's go.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So doing some work on the Nova here. We got the HVAC box in it, and we're gonna have to wind up plugging this here because it has this little valve that the instructions want you to put on the outside here to shut off water flow, you know, to help it's just a little box. So you don't want to have the hot water in there next to the condenser or next to the evaporator trying to, you know, cool down the car. It shuts the water flow off to the heater core, but it looks kind of stupid out here. No matter where I put it, it just didn't fit, didn't look good. So if you remember these lines, they're kind of long and they loop under the dash. On the bottom one here, there's enough room. I'm going to wind up cutting it, and I'm going to install this under the dash in this line here. So it's not going to be out here. So we're going to have to put a cap on that. We're coming along though. We got the wires laid out here pretty much. Everything but the AC. So we need to get the rest of the front end on it to lay out the AC. Got our temperature gauge wire in here. It's all electric, starter and oil pressure. And then on the driver's side here, you can see we incorporated the charge wire, did a 4/0. This is going to get shortened up. So the mass airflow is going to be right here. So that's why it's just sitting there. It's going to be cut back probably about to here. A little coupler, mass airflow, and then the air filter. And then we incorporated wires for the cooling fan. We got it grounded just here at the block. And then we got a nice ground strap to the frame. This thing doesn't have it's kind of helps because it doesn't have it's not rubber mounted. It's all solid like third gen Novas were subframed. They have rubber bushings on the front, so you need to make sure you have a ground strap to the body, but we're going to put another one, bell housing, to the firewall to make sure everything's grounded well. Poor grounds, it can arc through your main bearings and stuff in your converter and mess up all kinds of things. So everything but the AC, we're going to incorporate that as much as possible before we loom it. Then normally Nova's, the battery sits right here. The headlight harness is where it gets the power. So normally this one here would go around, you know, this plugs in the firewall. This would go around all the way to the battery. And that's what gives power to everything inside, pretty much the whole car. The ignition, this is what feeds everything. But now we got the battery in the trunk. So we're going to take this, we're going to depin this one here, our power wire, and then we're going to take it on the inside of the fuse box, then run it to the battery. So we won't have to come out and loop and go back. It'll just be inside the car. So the battery's in the trunk, and then we're going to run so you can see the charge wire goes inside. So that's going to be ran inside the car, into the trunk, to the battery, and then the power wire will go to the battery. So this keeps it cleaner, so you don't have the wires, you know, nothing piggybacked and coming out and back in and everything else. So being that the wiring was really long once we brought it over, and then we got it ran inside, it didn't look good. Way too long, and I didn't want to have it looped underneath the dash or anything. So what I wound up doing is I numbered every wire. See, this is one of the ones I already did. And this is how much I wound up shortening it. So we're a little over probably a foot. Took out of it. So there's like 70 wires, like 1 through 70. I numbered it on both sides because even though they're the same colors, even so some have tracers, you can wind up getting it mixed up, which is easier to keep track of everything to do the same number. So we numbered them all, and we cut it, and then once I ran it inside the car and got it to length, then I just connected it with some heat shrink connectors, butt connectors. So you can see here what I got going on. So this is the last of the rat's nest. We're working our way. So this here's our 2 Pcm harnesses. So I'm just going to have them run. They're going to sit like this. This is our OBD2 connector. That's this guy here. So that's going to be pushed up. So these are going to sit like so. And then these are going to come around. You can see where I already got them. Got some of them done already. And then this is under dash harness. So that's just incorporated. So these are all the ones that we got to deal with still. We got to shorten these up. And they're going to wind up pretty much going like that. And then this is just going to sit right here. So these will just curve over to the engine harness. Is pretty much what's going on. You see the charge wire comes up and then runs down, and then also the fuel pump wire and the power wire that's going to feed the whole ignition or the whole original fuse box is going to be incorporated in this also. And it's a good thing we took it apart because we got a couple wires here that aren't very happy, so we got to fix those guys too. We found. That was inside of the factory loom. Somebody shorted out, I don't know what that is yet, but they had another, probably the brake lights, because they had another brake light wire ran externally from the original harness. I got a little insulated clamp here. It's holding the harness up, and then I'm going to mount this aftermarket. This is the little fuse box for the relays and everything. This is going to run all the powers for the engine, injectors, the throttle body. So I want to keep all the fuses together so you're not looking around the car like, oh, there's a fuse box here, there's a fuse box there. So I'm going to mount this. I got these two tabs here on the side. So this is going to be mounted here, be like so, and then the clutch pedal, you know, miss it just fine. It's not going to go that far down anyway. We got a couple relays. We got our fan relay, and we're going to have it set up that it comes on with the AC, because you need to have air across the condenser. So when your AC is on, your fan needs to be on, and then your temperature switch. So the temperature is controlled by the PCM, what tells the fan to come on. So when the AC grounds it or the PCM grounds it, either way. The relay that controls all the injectors. And then we have a safety switch. This is into the dash part. This is for clutch start. So you have to have the clutch to the floor before you can start it. So you can't start it in gear and have it drive away from you. You got a safety feature. We'll get the speedo and everything else in the dash. And then we can finish up all this under dash. This here is what plugs into the aftermarket. And then this here is what goes to the aftermarket. Yeah, this goes to the dash part. And then this is going to go to the gauges here. Everything's electric. But I'm not going to loom under the dash. If something happens, you want to be able to look underneath there and get to it pretty easily. It doesn't need to be all, in my opinion, it doesn't need to be all loomed up. You're not going to look underneath the dash all the time and see if you have looms on your wires. And we need to change so we didn't put our APP, our Mother May I pedal, back in yet because we have the harness came with the wrong connector on it. So we can't plug it in, so we left it out so we can make sure we can take a good look at it, make sure we got the right harness. And you can see that for some reason, they must have thought you were going to put this thing in the trunk or something. I don't know why this harness is so long, but we got to shorten that one up too. So that's pretty much the gist of the harness of what we got going on. We almost got it down, almost got it finished up and tailored to this car, so it looks like it was actually made for it instead of some afterthought, you know, with a whole bunch of piggyback harnesses.
So now that you are thoroughly confused with wiring, we're going to be showing you what we're going to be doing in the next video and talking about the mini tub, passenger mini tub, showing it really quick because we didn't show it in the beginning of the video and I said we were going to be showing it. We'll look at that, and hopefully in the next video we're going to be cranking this thing over. You can hear it go, whoa, whoa. Little pig trying to get that carrot dangling in front of your face. It's like right there, just however that goes.
Hello everybody, back here working on this tub. You see we got it roughed out. We got to cut it a little bit more here because the tires are running the 295s. We got to go into the unibody. We just got it roughed out. We got to bring this over now. Then we can put the tub in it, and then we're going to put the block off. We're going to block this off, and it had a piece of, I don't even know what you want to call it, material up here, but come to find out it was on top of a piece of cardboard box. So we trashed it. So we're going to wind up putting it's aluminum, but it's the black aluminum. It's got the black coating on it. So this is just going to be black. So if you look in the back window, it'll just be like a gloss black aluminum. And I'll use some nice stainless bolts or something to bolt it down because the back window, you can't get in there to pop rivet it, the back window in it. So I'm just going to drill it from the bottom and then we'll put some bolts in it. We'll cover this up so we can we'll sound deaden this, but this won't be sound deadened. And then we're going to move the battery. We're going to put the battery all the way in the back, but I want to keep room to use the trunk like a trunk. So I'm going to put the battery right here behind the seat. So it'll be up here all the way forward. You can see my power wire coming over here. That's that's a charge wire. No interference. It gets all the charge to the battery so you don't get any voltage drop or anything going through any other component or getting reduced down in wire size, so it gets all the 14.5 volts. Then we'll run a good heavy gauge battery cable. The battery cables will go through, and they'll be run outside to the starter. Everything will work out good. So we'll get this tub finished up, the wiring, move the battery. You won't see me no more. You wouldn't even see me when this car next time. I'll be hidden by a tub. So we're gonna get it going. We're gonna get going. Get out of here. What am I doing?